The Law School Admission Council has just been sued. And this Friday, for the first time, they may have to start handing over the internal emails and the money trail they have kept private for years. And I'll explain why that matters in a minute, because it's actually bigger than the lawsuit itself. But first, let's talk about the numbers that started all of this. If you apply to 10 law schools, you're going to pay one company $669 just to use their website. And the law schools using that same website, according to the lawsuit, they pay nothing for it. Zero. That is the system a federal antitrust lawsuit is trying to blow open. Now, I read every filing in this case myself, the actual court documents, not just some news recap. So I want to walk you through what's really going on here, because once you see how this thing is built, you're not going to look at the process the same way again. Now, you might be wondering how a lawsuit about application fees could possibly reshape the LSAT itself. Now, here is the connection. LSAC runs the LSAT, but they also run the only road into law school, and this is the first serious attempt to challenge how they run any of it. If you shake LSAC, everything around the LSAT shakes with it: what you pay, how you apply, all of it. Now, LSAC, the Law School Admission Council, is a nonprofit that's run the show since the 1940s. Every American Bar Association approved law school in the country is a member, and they control the three things that decide your fate as an applicant: the LSAT, your credential assembly service file, which is where your transcripts, your scores, your rec letters all live, and the platform every single law school uses to receive your application. That's one login, one file, one system. And from the outside, it looks clean, even efficient, you might say. And it is. There is nobody who's mad that it's centralized. What people get mad about is the money. So let's talk about that. In 2025, more than 76,000 people filed over 500,000 law school applications. Now, you pay $219 just to open your CAS file, then $45 for every single school you send it to. If you apply to 10 law schools, which is totally normal, that's $669 to LSAC before one school has even looked at you. On top of that, most schools charge their own application fee too, typically around $100 each, and so a typical applicant is past $1,000 before a single decision comes back, and of course, none of that is refundable. Now, according to the lawsuit, the law schools don't pay LSAC anything to use that platform, not a single cent, and they get a fully built admission system, document management, communications tools, reporting dashboards, all of it completely free. The complaint says it in one line here, and I quote, "Applicants' credential assembly service fees are the sole fees paid by anyone for LSAC's law school application platform," meaning that you, the applicant, are the only one paying for it. The lawsuit says applicants handed LSAC $93 million over the course of 3 years, and the law schools paid nothing. And so this is not abstract, this is not theoretical, this is real. Now, when you're applying, you might not be asking, which schools am I competitive for? You're asking, how many schools can I actually afford to apply to? Which is kind of backwards if you think about it, right? Because, I mean, you spend months, in some cases years, grinding for your LSAT score. You finally get your numbers where you want them, and then you're sitting there cutting a reach school from your list because you can't afford another $100 fee. And so that moment where money overrules your ambition is really what this lawsuit is about, not the LSAT, not the platform. And of course, LSAC is not a neutral referee. It's a membership organization governed by the law schools themselves. According to the complaint, every single person on LSAC's board works for a member law school. So the schools that you are applying to are the same schools that run the system. They set what the platform costs and they force you to use it, and they get it for free while you pay for all of it. Now, the complaint says that between 2013 and 2023, LSAC handed out more than $6.5 million in grants to law schools, over $300,000 to a single school, Indiana University. And of course, grants to law schools are not illegal on their own, but the lawsuit's point is more about incentives. The more you apply, the more you pay, the more money LSAC has to send back to the schools that run it. So maybe you're thinking there is no other way to do this, but of course there is. Take, for example, the Common App used for undergrad admissions. More than 1,000 colleges use it. Students send one application to a bunch of schools, and it's free for students because the schools pay to use the platform. It is the total opposite of LSAC. And the complaint here calls this out directly. Unlike LSAC, the Common application doesn't charge applicants for its platform, it charges the schools. And business school admissions works the same way. The schools compete for applicants, and some of them waive their fees entirely. So applicant funded is not the only model, it's just LSAC's model. And there is no alternative because every ABA approved law school requires you to use LSAC, and only LSAC. There is zero competition. So there's no pressure to lower the price or improve the product. And so one applicant looked at this and said he was going to sue. That guy's name is Linville Risner. Last August, he paid the fees and decided to fight back, and he took on LSAC in effectively every law school in America. He filed a federal class action lawsuit in Pennsylvania, which is where LSAC is located. He sued LSAC directly and named 197 member law schools as co-conspirators behind this, and his arguments that the whole structure violates federal antitrust law under the Sherman Act, the same law used to break up monopolies. He brought 3 claims before the court. 2 said the fees are illegally fixed, and 1 said LSAC holds a flat-out monopoly on how you apply to law school. He asked the court to stop the arrangement, force the market open to competing platforms, and pay triple damages on everything applicants were overcharged. Then this past April, the judge threw the whole case out, but it's not game over, actually. The judge said the case was a mess, fix it and come back. Not game over. He ruled that the plaintiff, Mr. Risner, quote, has 2 things going for him. He alleges concerted action and he has antitrust standing. The rest presents an uphill battle. So that means that LSAC and the schools really are acting together as a group. They're not making their own independent choices. And the plaintiff has the right to sue because he paid the fees. He's a direct customer, so he's got standing. But the judge tossed it because in an antitrust case, you've got to define exactly what market is being controlled. And the plaintiff's definition was kind of sloppy. He said all schools compete for the same applicants, but that's not really true because Stanford and a 4th-tier school aren't fighting over the same student. And the judge handed the plaintiff a roadmap. He said the platform serves 2 sides at the same time. The applicants who pay and the schools who use it for free. The plaintiff ignored the schools using it. And so on May 12th, just 1 month ago or so, the lawyers came back for the plaintiff and they rebuilt the case, more than twice as long, a whole lot of new material, a whole new exhibit, defining the markets by law school selectivity, which was the hole the judge told them to fix. And so they're still fighting. And LSAC filed a second motion to dismiss a couple weeks ago. And so they hired WilmerHale, one of the biggest, most expensive law firms on the planet. So publicly, LSAC says the case has no merit, but privately, they're paying top dollar to a top law firm to make sure this case dies. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but this Friday, things change. The discovery period opens up. And so the judge is letting the case move forward and letting this get argued. Discovery is a phase of a lawsuit where each side has to hand over documents, data, internal emails, contracts, and answer questions under oath. In an antitrust case like this, discovery is the whole ballgame. It's expensive, it's messy, it's invasive, and it falls hardest on the side with the most to protect, which in this case, of course, is the Law School Admission Council. And here we're going to find out what the platform actually costs to run. Right now, the complaint's only guessing at the numbers. We're going to get some juicy details this time. I don't know the plaintiff is going to win, of course. I have no idea. Anyone who tells you they do is guessing here, but LSAC is probably more worried this week than they were a month ago. They don't hire a big firm like WilmerHale by the hour to fight something that they're not worried about. Now, of course, nothing here is proven. These are just allegations. LSAC denies everything, and they say their whole mission is to expand access to legal education. The judge already tossed this once. The judge could absolutely toss the amended version as well. If he does, discovery stops cold and most of this goes away. And of course, this changes nothing for you this cycle. Your fees remain the same. You're still paying $45 per school. If this ever leads to refunds or a settlement, that's years away from now. It'll cover people who already paid, not your next application. But this is also bigger than law school. The same law firm filed the same kind of case on the very same day against the AAMC, which is the group that runs medical school admissions. This is not really about just the LSAT, it's about higher education, grad schools in general. Now, of course, LSAC still controls the platform you apply with. They control the fees. They control the test that you take. You control almost nothing, except one thing, which is your LSAT score. Your LSAT score is the single biggest lever on what law school will actually cost you. I want you to forget about $219 or $45 per school that you apply to, or even application fees. If you score high enough, law schools will throw scholarship money at you, tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes a full ride. That is the real money in this equation for you. A couple $100 in LSAT fees is a rounding error compared to earning 6 figures in law school tuition, getting a full ride, getting into a better law school. That will set the trajectory of the rest of your legal career. If you want my help getting that score up, I've put together a free LSAT cheat sheet, free PDF download, a quick reference on everything on the LSAT, both logical reasoning and reading comprehension. You can grab that free download in the link below the video, in my bio on TikTok and Instagram as well. I'm also offering a free LSAT tutoring lesson for everybody watching this now or later. The link to book that free tutoring lesson with me is unpluggedprep.com/start. The link is below the video on YouTube, pinned in the chat on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG. Happy to help you out. So again, bottom line, I know it's fun to hate on LSAC and they might be doing some things wrong for all we know. We'll find out as this case goes forward. But the biggest needle mover for you is not to complain about the LSAT or to complain about the fees for applying. Get yourself some money for law school. If you can apply to law school with an LSAT score above the medians of the law schools that you're targeting, they will give you scholarship money. They might even give you a full ride because you help them raise their standing in the US News rankings. You can get more scholarship money by getting just a few points more on your LSAT. And so wherever you're at, whether you're just starting with your LSAT prep or you've been at it for a while and you want to move the needle, get that score up on a first take or on a retake, grab the free cheat sheet, grab the free tutoring lesson with me. Happy to talk you through what your prep could look like. What we do during these free tutoring lessons is we look at where you're currently scoring, what your goal score is, what your time frame is, and then we map out an action plan to get you from your starting point up to your goal score between now and when you're taking the LSAT. And for those asking about pricing, we personalize every program to the student because everyone's got a different starting point, a different goal score, and a different time frame. If you're taking the LSAT in August, we're probably going to take a more intensive boot camp style approach with live coaching at least a couple times a week. If you're taking the LSAT in November, January, February or so, we'll take a more slow and steady approach. If you want to talk through the particulars, the best way to figure it out is to book the free tutoring with me. Now, I see questions here in the chat. I'm going to get to as many of those questions as I can. Feel free to keep dropping them in. Anything at all, LSAT and law school admissions is of course fair game. I'll do what I can to answer those. I see Retrospect is asking, do extracurriculars matter much for law schools? And if so, does a debate national championship make waves? Okay, so extracurriculars don't matter that much for law school. Not going to say they don't matter at all because they do matter a little bit. But what matters a lot more is your LSAT score and your GPA. And so a debate national championship, of course, is awesome. Definitely talk about it, include it on your resume, maybe talk about it in one of your application essays. And of course, those who do well in debate are more likely to do well on the LSAT because, of course, arguments, logic, all that good stuff. But use those skills from debate, leverage them for your LSAT prep, of course. Don't argue with the answer key, but engage in that critical, skeptical reasoning that's going to carry you pretty far when it comes to the LSAT. Jonathan's asking, will it look bad on my application if I take the LSAT in August and October? Not at all. Why would it? You kind of have to take the LSAT to apply, but taking it multiple times is totally fine. Law schools do not take the average of multiple LSAT scores. They only take into consideration the highest LSAT score on your record. And so if you're going to retake, that's fine. In fact, I recommend that everybody retake the LSAT at least once because more at-bats means more successes. If you do worse on a retake, no big deal. The previous high score still stands, and if you retake and do better, Congrats, now you've got a higher score. I see Tamara says she's going to grab the free LSAT cheat sheet. Awesome. If you need help, that's a great place to start. It's a quick reference on everything on the LSAT, both logical reasoning and reading comprehension. It's a free download I put together for you all below the video, pinned in the chat in my bio as well. I see Sam is asking, should I do communications for an easy 4.0, then focus on internships and LSAT prep? I'll say this. Law school admissions is really mainly about your LSAT score and your GPA. And so if you haven't chosen a major yet, it might be prudent to choose a major that is more likely to get you a high GPA. I hate saying that because I think that you should just choose to major what you really want to major in. But for law school admissions, there is a downside to focusing on harder majors that could tank your GPA. Classes that are not as strictly graded on a curve, you're likely to do better in. Ali or Ali is asking, scoring 157 to 160, how likely is it to get a 170 by August? I mean, I can't make a prediction for you. I can say that we have students who improve 10, 15 points in 2 months. That's not outlandish or crazy. But your improvement on the LSAT is ultimately a function of the amount that you study and the way that you study. And so my questions would be, how much time can you put in per day and per week in terms of how many hours? And then secondly, how are you studying? How are you going about your LSAT prep? Are you self-studying with LSAT for Dummies or Kaplan or ChatGPT, or are you getting some proper personalized, specialized support with a proper LSAT course or personalized one-on-one coaching? Because the thing is that when you're studying on your own, you don't know what you don't know. But once we add some personalized support into the mix, there's usually a pretty quick score boost, meaning there's going to be a lot of low-hanging fruit. Because when you're on your own, you don't know what you don't know. So if you want some support with your prep, if you feel like you need some guidance, then you could book the free LSAT tutoring with me and we could talk through what your prep could look like over the next few months to maximize your score increase. A lot of students will make the mistake of only drilling questions by type without establishing a strong foundation and without taking enough full exams. Then there are a lot of other students who do nothing but take full exams and don't build the foundation first. And so you want to have the proper mix of drilling and taking exams while also taking time to build that foundation, learning the different sections and learning the different question types. In logical reasoning, for example, you've got roughly 15 different types of questions, including strengthen, weaken, flaw, parallel, resolve, and so on. But not all of them are of equal difficulty or equal frequency. Some show up more often than others. In logical reasoning, for example, the 3 most common question types are necessary assumption, inference, and flaw. I would start there before focusing on the less common types like parallel reasoning and evaluate the argument that hardly ever show up. And so part of what we do for our students in crafting those study plans is we create a personalized plan on the highest yield, highest ROI question types that get you the biggest return for the time that you're putting in targeting your particularly weak area. So what's the overlap of areas that you struggle with that are also showing up frequently to get you a bigger score boost in a shorter time frame? Because when you're taking it only 2 months away, you got to focus on the highest yield areas. I see Gail's asking, I'm applying to law school after college. How early should you start studying? A lot of folks will try to knock out the LSAT in only 2 to 3 months, but in my experience, it typically takes 5 to 6 months to reach your fullest potential. And so you want to plan ahead and establish a good runway to maximize the increase that you can achieve. If you're a sophomore, it's not too early to start studying for the LSAT as long as you can maintain a solid undergraduate GPA. I think as a freshman, it's probably too early. And certainly if you're in high school, just focus on getting into college, acing the SAT or the ACT if you're taking it, and then, of course, enjoy college. Explore what you truly want to major in, what you truly want to do with your degree. The LSAT's not going anywhere, but if you're a gunner and you're in sophomore year and you're like, you know what, I'm certain I want to do law school and knock out the LSAT early, maybe retake it if you need to, then it's not a terrible idea to start as a sophomore. I see a question about your undergraduate degree's importance. Where you went to undergrad does not matter for law school. Law schools don't care where you went to undergrad. They also don't care what you majored in because they are not evaluated on the basis of those metrics in particular. Law schools care about your GPA and your LSAT score. Those are the numbers. That's what matters because that's what they report to the American Bar Association, which in turn is where US News pulls their data from for inclusion in the ever important US News Law School rankings. So if you look at it from the law school's perspective, their incentives drive their decisions, your LSAT score and your GPA. And the thing is that for a lot of folks, GPA is already pretty fixed at this point in time. You've already finished college or are finishing up college in many cases. And you can't redo all of college, of course. It's also quite expensive given what credits and semesters cost. But your LSAT score, 1 day, 2.5 hours, weighs more heavily than all of undergrad combined. And so for folks who are splitters, where their GPA is a bit on the lower side relative to the medians of the law schools that they're shooting for, the LSAT score is the big needle mover, so that's where we focus. I see Samantha's asking, how much time should I be dividing between logical reasoning and reading comp? Because for the past month, I've been mainly focusing on logical reasoning. So logical reasoning is 2/3 of the scored portions of the LSAT. LSAC removed logic games about 2 years ago and replaced it with a second scored logical reasoning section. And so for that reason, logical reasoning is now 2/3 of your score. And so I would recommend focusing at least 2/3 of your time on logical reasoning, since any gains you make there are doubled across the two sections. But don't sleep on reading comp either, because it's still a whole third. And the people who say that you cannot improve at reading comp are sorely mistaken. They couldn't be more wrong. You can improve on reading comp as well. Reading comp is like a big logical reasoning stimulus or argument, and it is possible to improve there significantly as well. The patterns might be a bit harder to spot, but they're there just the same. And so part of what we do in our LSAT coaching is we help you see the similarities between logical reasoning and reading comprehension, help you understand the common structures or skeletons that LSAC uses when designing reading comprehension passages. And these are, of course, independent of the topic, whether it's natural science, social science, humanities, law, doesn't matter. Those core skeletons are the same regardless, and there are a limited set of them that we help you understand. I see Samantha says, I'm using the big textbooks to study. It's taking me too long to finish these textbooks. Should I still be doing all these practice tests since I haven't read all the chapters yet? Well, a lot of these LSAT prep textbooks are like 500-page phone books for each section of the LSAT. And in my view, they overcomplicate things. They overcategorize things. It just doesn't take that long to explain something. You shouldn't have to read 1,000 pages before ever getting to an actual LSAT question or practice test. And so I would say, if you're not getting through the books, just put them aside. There are easier, simpler, more streamlined, more efficient ways to get the basics of the LSAT down. Even just using my free YouTube videos on the LSAT Unplugged YouTube channel would be sufficient. I've got plenty of videos covering every single type of logical reasoning question and reading comp as well. I even did some explainers that were explaining each LSAT question type in literally 1 minute or less, like 60 seconds. So contrast that to reading 50 pages on one LSAT question type. Watch the quick explainer videos on my YouTube channel and then get into the practice tests. Because in a perfect world with unlimited time, sure, you could read the 1,000 pages, but you don't got time for that because your LSAT's coming up. I don't know when you're taking it, but it's coming up at some point. And if you're on this live now, I'm guessing that you're already in the thick of your studying, given what you previously shared. If you want to take the LSAT this fall, the clock's ticking. We got to get moving on those practice tests, because the foundational work is only one phase of the prep. Beyond the foundational work, learning the sections, learning the question types, you've also got pacing and time management, doing individual sections of 35 minutes each, and then, of course, full-length timed exams to build up your endurance. You could divide LSAT prep into 3 major phases: accuracy, pacing, and endurance. Accuracy being the foundational phase and drilling questions by type. Then you've got the pacing phase, doing individual sections, and then time management, and then endurance, doing full-length exams. And so I see HG saying, I'm only getting through 15 questions per section. That's a problem, right? Because you've got roughly 25 questions per logical reasoning section. And so you're just barely scraping past the halfway mark. You got to cover the other half as well. If you're only doing 15 out of 25 and you're sacrificing 10 questions, you're setting a pretty low ceiling on what your score could be. And so I'd rather you move into the pacing phase sooner rather than later, because it's not enough time, not enough to get the questions right untimed. You got to get them right under timed conditions. And same goes for drilling, by the way. Test day is not a drill. You got to solve the questions within the constraints of the actual LSAT, considering the 35-minute time constraint, considering the endurance of doing 4 sections back to back. And so if you are taking the LSAT this calendar year, coming up, you've got the LSATs in August, September, October, and November. Put the 1,000-page textbooks aside. watch some quick explainer videos on my YouTube channel, start doing some timed sections, and then make a calendar for yourself that ensures you will do at least 10 full exams before your official LSAT. And if your LSAT is in August or September, you're going to want to do at least one practice test a week at minimum. Maybe some weeks do even 2 exams a week. So for example, if you got July 4th weekend coming up, or you got Labor Day weekend coming up, a 3-day weekend, you could do a test on Friday and a test on Sunday. Don't do tests on consecutive days. And if you're working full time, maybe you don't do one during a weekday, but Friday, Sunday, you do one each day. Because you got to get those tests under your belt. The ideal being that test day itself becomes like just another run through, and you've done it all before. You want test day to feel smooth. You want to go in feeling cool, confident, collected, ready to crush it. But if you get stuck in the accuracy phase doing foundational work for weeks and months, you're going to find that you're at test day having not done a full practice test, and then you're going to be in this position where you're like, well, I'm going to take it because I'm already signed up for it, but I don't feel ready. And then you get a take on your record that you can't erase. It could be, you could cancel the score, of course, but if you cancel it, schools will assume that it didn't go very well. And of course, not a big deal, because law schools don't average multiple LSAT scores. They only take into consideration the highest score on your record, but there are retake limits, and you want to avoid taking it if you can, if you're not feeling ready. Ideally, you only take it when you feel like you're scoring at or above your goal score, and that requires, of course, taking practice tests on a regular, consistent basis. Miri says, I took my first test this June. When should I get my writing done? I would do the writing sample now. I mean, LSAC will not release your score to you until you have taken the writing sample. It is a requirement. They will not disclose your score to you or anybody else until you get the writing sample done. So I would take it now, because if your writing sample gets flagged for whatever reason, then it might get delayed. You might need to redo the writing sample, and you don't want to be that person on score release day who hasn't gotten their score back. So knock it out now, get it done so that you can move on with things. And I wouldn't overly stress about the writing sample because it's not scored anyway. Law schools don't really care that much about it. I'm not saying to treat it like a joke, of course, take it seriously, but I wouldn't overly stress about it. For those of you who are a bit earlier in the LSAT prep stages and you're not taking the LSAT for a while, you should be aware that LSAC has indicated that at some point in the next couple of years, they will probably start scoring the writing sample. And so if you want to avoid having to do a scored writing sample, I would recommend that you take the LSAT no later than 1 year from now, meaning June of next year, because LSAC might start scoring the writing as early as July or August of next year. Not a guarantee, of course, exactly, but we don't know exactly when they will score it, but could be as soon as 1 year from now, approximately. Apples is asking about lawyers' income, asking, is law school a good idea for getting a job that pays at least $100,000? Because you keep saying that some lawyers make $60,000, which is a joke. So that's a good point. So lawyer salaries are distributed into 2 major buckets: making like $50,000 to $60,000 a year, or making more like $150,000, $200,000 plus. Big split, not a whole lot in the middle. And so the question becomes, how can you ensure you're on the higher end of that, not the lower end of that? Those who make on the higher end are typically working in big law corporate jobs, going to top law schools. Those are earning on the lower end are going to smaller, less prestigious law schools, working in smaller markets. And so if you go to a T14 law school or any tier 1 law school in a major market, like I'm talking New York, Boston, DC, Chicago, LA, for example, you could be on the higher end. If you're in a quote unquote flyover state, if you're in a less populous area, in a smaller market, then you might end up on the lower end. And so what you want to do is you want to look up law school employment outcomes. Law schools publish these every year. They are required to submit them to the American Bar Association. And you can look up for any given law school, X law school ABA employment report, and they will show you what the typical outcomes are for their applicants, for their students, and they will give you a general sense of what their students are earning post-graduation. You can also see from the ABA data what the bar passage rates are, and you can also see what the typical LSAT and GPA medians are for any given law school so that you can get a general sense of what numbers you need to be competitive to get into that given law school. And then on the flip side, on the other end, what your expected outcomes are in terms of employment and in terms of bar passage rates as well. Now, for those just joining, I do these lives every single weekday, same time, same place, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central, 11 Pacific, here on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you're watching this. If you find this helpful, please spread the word. The only way this grows is through word of mouth. I don't do any advertising for these lives. The algorithm doesn't really boost these because they can't run ads during them. So I do appreciate your support, spreading the word, sharing this to your socials on TikTok, sharing this in group chats, subreddits, Facebook groups, Discords, sharing this in any pre-law societies that you're part of. The more this grows, the more I will expand it over time. I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central. I'll see you all then. In the meantime, all the best. Take care. Thanks for joining.